All right, welcome everyone to the August 2016 GetFiveStars webinar. I'm Aaron Weike, and I'm also joined by GetFiveStars Mike Blumenthal on the webinar. So hello to everyone, and maybe if a few of you in the chat want to just let us know that you're hearing us and seeing our screen just fine, that would be great. It's always good to know we're not talking to no one. Mike, are you seeing anybody respond? Because I'm not.
Yep, everybody's responding.
Okay. Oh, all right. I'm not seeing that in the chat window. All right. Oh, there they are. They're in the questions. That's why.
In the questions, yeah.
All right. See, got to look around everywhere. Well, great. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining Mike and I today. We have a number of things to go over, but we do want to start with, again, reinforcing the dynamic duo that you're stuck with today. Don's on a flight somewhere, so he's not able to, he's normally manning the ship for the webinar. But today you have Mike and I, and then you can see our mugs there if you haven't had a chance to meet us in person at the helm today, and hoping to be of help outlining some of our new features and some of the things we have going on. I do like to always start, in case any of our webinar joiners are people considering the platform or kind of first time into it and trying to help understand. Obviously, we're going to go over some new features to the platform today and a few other elements, but just to give a quick kind of elevator to those who might be taking a look at GetFiveStars for the first time. Simply put, we are a customer feedback and online review platform. And the easiest way that we describe that is you're really customizing a feedback flow, a customer feedback flow in our platform. And once you customize that, you're then adding your customers in. And that works a number of different ways, which I'll touch on as well. One thing I really want to point out that we help capture and is very helpful to businesses is your Net Promoter Score. Mike wrote a post a month or two back that was really great and really captured what Net Promoter Score is as far as your word of mouth index, right? So anytime you're asked how likely you are to refer that business on a 0 to 10 rating scale, you are helping that business capture their Net Promoter Score with it. And it really helps you understand both how your customers feel about you and then how likely you are to succeed with them giving you referrals to your business. So Net Promoter Score is an important step for how the majority of customers use our product, and one thing you should definitely read up more and know how to leverage understanding that for your business. From the entry points, we have a number of ways that are proactive, right? This is you, the business, taking into your own hands, requesting feedback from your customers. Interesting enough, I should have jotted down the numbers. I just read an article today that had to do with a majority of customers want companies to ask them. I think it was somewhere around a 60 or 70% mark of customers expect a company to ask them about what their experience was like with them. And then that same survey also showed that 1 in 3 companies had never asked customers ever for any feedback on the experience. It was a Marketing Profs article and really just highlighted some of the high things on how important it is to ask for customer feedback. And our platform does that by use of email, either a single email address one at a time or uploading a list. We have our kiosk mode with any data or Wi-Fi enabled smartphone or tablet or iPad, able to start a customer that way. We have a number of different integration routes from our API can be used in a wide variety of formats to integrate with CRMs and POSs and things like that. We're out on Zapier as well to help connect different platforms together, webhooks as well. And as many of you are aware, coming in 2017, SMS will be another entry point for asking customers as well. Reactive ways. We have all kinds of passive or reactive ways that open up an avenue for a customer to get into the feedback process when they choose to. So we have our short URL. This link you can place anywhere on a web page. This is a great one to tweet out or put on your Facebook page or anything else to help ask customers into the feedback process. We have our testimonial widget. Not only does it display testimonials, but you can check on the configurations to include a Give Us Feedback button. Within email marketing, you're able to use a mail merge feature. So if you're sending out a monthly or a weekly email campaign on Constant Contact, Campaign Monitor, anything like that, you can kind of include this method that will automatically populate the customer's name and email address in our platform when they click on the Give Feedback. And we have a few posts, and that's also in our help guide how to do that. We have a locator that we've released into the wild in the last month or so. I will have an upcoming blog post on this, but this is designed for franchises and multi-locations, so you can hit just one page and then self-select the location or the store ID of where you want to leave feedback for. So I'll have more on that on the blog in the next week or two, but really great for multi-locations and franchises. It really doesn't have a use for a single location small business or if you have only a small handful of locations. And lastly, our Wi-Fi portal. This is in beta, but this is a device that sits in front of a Wi-Fi service at, say, like a coffee shop or maybe a dentist's office, and allows customers access to the internet by them supplying their email address. And then you can then use that email address to ask for feedback from them after their visit. So it not only helps capture email addresses for that business, also helps them request feedback as well. So that's a number of the pieces that we have within the system, just to give you a high-level intro, and there's all kinds of other pieces. You can always request a demo on our website as well. There's a number of different requested demo call to actions that you can click on and give us your info. We'd love to give you a personal tour if that's beneficial for you. Taking a look at what Don covered last month, and Mike joined him last month as well. They went through product updates. There was 4 or 5 different things that they took a look at. We obviously have our new logo and branding. It's still fresh enough. It has that new logo smell to it. We're definitely loving what's going on with it. A number of you have requested stickers. Those are about to go out in the mail in the next week or so here. If you haven't, look up the blog post on the new branding and you can request those and slap them on your laptop and look stylish, and we thank you for that. And then Mike and Don discussed a couple of posts I wrote that both strategically and tactically looked at how to get more online reviews regarding customer experience and specific tactics within our system. So for today, we have a couple of very what we would consider to be large features to discuss that we've released inside the last 30 days together. The first being survey questions. And we'll take a dive into that in the next slide here coming up. We also have the repeat customer feedback feature. So this just rolled out Monday, and it has kind of a few small quick updates coming to it this week that will enable it for everyone, and I'll touch more on that. But that basically is allowing customers to leave feedback over their lifespan. So one customer could have 3 or 4 or 10 different feedback instances over time with your company, and we have a few different settings with that. And then we'll look at the 3 types of feedback request emails. This is a blog post I put together a couple of weeks ago and helps you understand from our default version. We also have a ratings-only version of requesting feedback. And then we also have kind of a hybrid model that Mike calls customer choice, where you actually put online review requests as well as a feedback request right up front in the email. So we'll break those 3 down, and then we'll have time for Q&A at the end as well. So if you have questions as we go along, answer them. Most likely Mike and I will hold on to those and then go through them when we get towards the end of it, unless it is directly related to what we're looking at. But please go ahead and enter your questions so we can take a look at those as we go through. All right, so survey questions. This rolled out just at the beginning of the month, and this was really focused on a number of our customers had asked for more ways to be able to get more information out of their customers. And in doing so, we spent quite a few months planning this out and what this might look like. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that we feel is a great benefit to GetFiveStars is we're not a very time-elaborate process for your customer. I'm sure you all, as consumers yourselves, you've gone and opened up a survey and then proceeded to see that it has 40 questions embedded in it that you're going to have to go through and answer, or 7 steps involved, or anything else. So we definitely did not want to make ourselves out to be a survey monkey or some full-blown surveying tool. But we also understand that being able to ask your customers more than just the Net Promoter Score question is definitely important. It can allow you to get some really specific pieces of information. So within this, we really designed this to be, what you want to utilize out of it. So if you go under the settings menu in your GetFiveStars dashboard and you drop down, you'll see that Survey Questions has a tab all its own on there. And it allows you to add anywhere from 1 to 4 questions. You can obviously not utilize it and not add any additional survey questions to your survey. You can add 2, you can add 3, you can add 4. And once you get in there, you have complete control over what you want to ask. And all the questions, as you can see from the visual here on the right, use the same 0 to 10 rating scale that the NPS does. So it's same and similar and very familiar for the customer, so they're able to see everything and be able to give you more insight on things you might want to ask about, like service and speed and pricing and customer service and everything else along those lines. Some things to point out with it. So here's kind of a little bit of a screenshot of when you're in the editor on that page. Again, just the same as our email templates. This uses a WYSIWYG in the browser editor. So you click first the Add Survey Question button that you see in blue below there, and then you edit the question. You can make that question whatever you want it to be, but keep in mind you want to read that back to yourself and how you're asking it. Are you getting to exactly what you want to be asking? And does it make sense with your 0 to 10 rating scale? You're able to also edit the 0 and 10 values. So you can see here in the screenshot I have, you can see the 10 value is open and 10 is very fast on it and 0 is not fast. One thing I want to point out I did recently, it wasn't one of our own surveys, but a survey I was sent by someone else. All of their questions followed this format where basically 10 was always the best or the fastest or the greatest, and then all of a sudden randomly on one question it was actually where 0 would be the best rating for it. So just consider in this format you always want to make the 10 side your most productive, near perfect, greatest experience that you're asking for, and then 0 the least of that. Then one more thing you need to add, if you see down in the lower left here where we have speed written in, so this is the keyword field, and you need to add a keyword that relates to what the question is about, because this carries that keyword over into the report, so it'll end up telling you that speed received a score of 10 on it. So just a simple 1 or 2 word descriptor of that question needs to be entered in for the keyword. So that's basically all the pieces you need to create those, and once you add those survey questions, again, you can add 1, you can add 4, you can add 3, whatever you choose, and then you can also drag and drop or choose to move them up or down, so you can control the order. As I mentioned, the Net Promoter Score is always in our customer feedback surveys, and it'll always be at the top as well, because we still use that to capture Net Promoter Score and also to determine if it's a happy or an unhappy customer with that. Mike, do you have anything else to add about the survey questions feature or things to point out for people?
No.
All right,
I'm
good.
just setting up an appointment with Sammy here. Sorry.
Mike's
Sammy
always
wanted to meet
multitasking.
I'm always multitasking and never doing a good job of anything. So there you go.
I know I have some good one-liners about if you if you're half rear-ending 2 things, you should probably be whole rear-ending 1 thing. So anyway.
Well, it depends on your definition of 1 or 2, right? I am fully embracing GetFiveStars at the moment. Just not the same embrace that you're giving, that's all.
Nice, I like it. All right. So with that, the next feature we'll jump into is, okay, well, I guess I'll answer a couple of things. Where Lindsay has asked, can you give us some examples of survey questions to use or what we might recommend? So, I gave a few in what we were talking about there, Lindsay. You might want to ask about rating your customer service specifically, or rate how fast you were greeted at the front desk, or rate your overall satisfaction with our product or with our service. So any additional insight that helps you gather understanding how people perceive the result as an end, one specific aspect of your customer experience or your product would all be helpful. In this case, right, the speed of our service is pretty generic, but say you were delivering pizzas, right? Like rate the speed of your delivery driver. That's going to give you insight on how people felt, how fast their pizza was delivered. Rate the hotness of our pizza when it arrived at your door. Now you can understand, did your product maintain its temperature the whole way there? So I would say, sit and do a little brainstorming with areas that you want to know about, or if you're already gathering feedback and seeing comments from people on different aspects, I would definitely entertain, let's look at some of the areas where we either, receive a lot of criticism or are mentioned. It might be something along the lines of cleanliness or wait times or follow-up or things like that, and maybe specifically ask for that so it's something that you can monitor even better on a consistent basis instead of a wide open where people give you feedback. Now you're specifically asking for that. So hopefully those are a few ideas, Lindsay, that'll help you out with how you look at your business, or if you're an internet marketer and you're using our platform for a variety of clients, just digging into each business and finding out what is helpful for them to know and what is key for them to understand that are either differentiators for their product or service or company that they should have a really good pulse on knowing if they're succeeding at or if there's room for improvement with it. So
I would add just one caveat, Aaron,
yeah.
And that is that increased friction is probably equal to reduced reviews at third-party sites. And so we see feedback as one end of the process and reviews as the other. And as you increase the demands on feedback, we think you're going to get some fall off at the other end of the process.
Yep, absolutely. And that'll be kind of one thing that Mike and I touch on when we break down the 3 types of review requests, because not all of our flows allow you to even do anything with survey questions, and we'll kind of outline some of the pros and the cons to each of those versions with what's on there. At a high level, I do like to remind people all the time, we usually see 10 to 15 times the amount of private feedback given on GetFiveStars compared to an online review. So while it's perfectly understandable that that's the the treasure you're after is that online review, you get a lot more actionable data because customers are more than willing to give you private feedback just to you and ratings just to you more than anything else. So depending upon what your goals are and what you're taking a look at, you definitely want to weigh those out as to how you want to approach it and what you want to do with it. So, all right, you are welcome, Lindsay. Thank you for thanking us. It's good to feel appreciated. All right, the next one
I always appreciate you, Aaron.
That's false. That's a 1-star answer. All right, the next feature we have is the repeat customer feedback, and this just was released in our platform, as I alluded to earlier, yesterday. And so we do have a fast follow-up tomorrow that'll make it a little bit more widely used. And in essence, understanding that this is about, when GetFiveStars was first created, it was more about just being able to understand each of your customers. And once a customer's email address was entered into our system, they were basically suppressed unless you ever went back in and went through steps to request an updated rating to what they were doing. But it really wasn't designed to say, hey, here's my customer who visits me 4 times a year, and each time they visit me, I want to ask them for feedback or encourage an online review from them. Obviously, in our time in the platform, we've seen how helpful this could be to really build a customer history for you of each time that they come in and do business with you or utilize your product, and also understand that with some rules built into it. So at the core of this is really, how can we ask our customers, especially our good customers who are loyal over and over again, and constantly be taking their temperature of our business for customer feedback. And then from studies in the past, we understand how important the recency of reviews are, right? Like Bright Local's last review study showed that people preferred reviews from the 0 to 3 month range. That after that, the relevancy for them really fell off because they were reviews from longer ago. There could be all kinds of things. It kind of falls into the, what have you done for me lately, or what is your reputation today, right? That's great that you made someone happy a year ago, but I want to see reviews that are recent. And for us, that's perfect, because that ties in exactly to what we're trying to do of, always be asking your customers. It's a long-term solution to do this kind of stuff, not a short-term, can I fire this up in 30 days and get some reviews and do whatever else and then shut it off and walk away from it, because all of a sudden you have review dates that are just far too long for customers to truly care about. So with that, those were some of the big pieces. You'll also being able to set a suppression range, right? And so what this setting is you'll be able to enter in a number of days, and if your customer has multiple instances inside of that, so say I order a pizza from you on August 1st, and your suppression date range is 30 days. And then I order a pizza again on August 15th, it's not going to send me a feedback request because I already got one August 1st and I gave you a rating and I answered it and did whatever else. So it's going to wait till I'm outside of that 30-day range of what's there. So you have control to be able to set how often a really good customer is going to hear from you. You can set that anywhere from 1 day on up to 255 days. So it's a very wide range that you can take from, all right, I only want to ask you if you're a good customer once a month, once every 3 months and once every 90 days, what that might look like, you're in control of, and you can decide what that is for your account and for your location with it. So, and that setting will be exposed later in the week here within the product. Currently, this is rolled out for our large-scale customers. This is in the API. This is also in the list upload. So when you upload a list and we see that customer's email address in there again, we're going to send them a separate feedback request as long as it's outside that date suppression setting that's in the account. And then, as I talked about, tomorrow or the next day, it's coming to all the inputs, right? So if you hit add a customer to singularly add an email, it will, when you add that customer, it will check and make sure they're outside of that date setting that you've set for a suppression. As long as they are, it will send them a new feedback instance. And as you can see from my small screenshot here, in our feedback history, you're going to see some changes in a lot more detail in the customer profile, and we'll jump over to that too, just to show you a live example with it. But we have feedback 1 here, and the date it came in on July 21st, and what the NPS score was, and then the 5-star rating, and then what that customer's feedback was. Each feedback instance, I can, publicly or privately respond to it. Privately is just via email with them. Publicly puts it in the testimonial widget as well as sends them an email. And then you can see on August 23rd, this customer was also sent a feedback request, and they gave an NPS score and a rating and feedback. And then here's where there was also an additional question that had to do with the speed of service, and they rated that an 8 out of 10. So this is where you'll see those additional scores would stack up down here if you have 1 to 4 questions. All fall
Amy
within
wants
that
to know
feedback.
why we set the upper limit at 255. That sounds like a programmer's limit to me.
It absolutely is a programmer's limit, and I wish I could give you the exact answer, Sammy, and it might be something that we do end up getting revised, but it has to do with an integer in development. So 255 is where it's at to start with. So that gets you close to almost a year of suppression. We're obviously 100 days short of that, but I'll try to find out and get a more exact answer to what that is. But as you can imagine, this was a really big feature for us to roll out, and that was one of those hairs that I didn't make the developers really go to task on, because they were already working like mad to complete this.
So Keenan wants to know if the suppression range start from the date of the first request is sent, the date of the upload, or the date they provide the first feedback.
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know if I have that answer. Keenan will have to find out about that, and we can definitely holler at you with the answer on that. I would assume it's from the initial feedback request, from that date on which the initial in which the customer is added and sent the request. That would be my guess. All right, so here's just a static screenshot example, and then we'll jump in this in the platform just so we can see it a little bit easier as well than a PowerPoint slide. But you can see there's a lot more detail into the customer profile now. For one, the customer's information, we have basically hardened that information now, And so in order to change a customer's first name, last name, add a mobile number, notes to that customer, whatever else, you're going to use the edit button over on the right. And again, I'll show you a live example of that. And that's how you will end up editing the customer information. After that, your activity log on the right side is going to show each feedback instance. So we have feedback 1, and that's going to tie up to the feedback 1 history details over here. And then there's also a feedback ID number that our system is generating. So you can use those to pair up and make sure you're looking at the right correct things, because at the end of the day, you could have 5 different activity log instances for feedback 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if they don't leave you a rating or leave you feedback, it's not going to populate that in the feedback history. The feedback history is only ones that have left you ratings and information, just the way our product works right now. But now there's just multiple instances of that. So keep in mind you could have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different feedback instances here, where it would just tell you that customer was added and the feedback request was sent and a reminder was sent, and then that customer never took any action. And then feedback 3 would be that they opened it and they left you a rating, and then the feedback 3 information would now be over in the feedback history. All right, so let me do the ever dangerous for me, switching from PowerPoint slides over to a browser. So if I just jump into this demo account that I use, and then we'll find that same customer. One thing to point out on here, that when that customer leaves that instance, that individual instance will be previewed here in kind of the customer dashboard, which is really kind of evolved, and you'll probably see a name change of this where it's more of our activity flow, right? So Gary is our same customer that we're going to see on the board twice here, because here's his July 21st feedback, score, everything else that had to do with that. And then up here is his August 23rd feedback with his score and everything he entered. And that gives you the ability to, each of these separately, you can decide which one you want to show in the testimonial widget or not, which one you're going to respond to, what the exact behaviors were of that one. But when I go into the customer profile, Gary has just one customer profile in the system with it. And then all of his feedback information is going to be kept within this specific one. If I need to edit any of the customer information, you can see all the same things here. If I need, okay, he does have a mobile number now that I want to add in. And I want to add some customer notes. And hit save. And it'll jump me back out to his profile. You can see that that information has been added into his profile, but again, you're not editing it right here on the customer profile screen. You're going to the edit screen. So that's the one change with that. And then the activity log on the right, we have that more detailed out than we did before, and each of the individual feedbacks. If I was going to respond to these or have a history of them, if I click publicly respond, it's going to give me the ability to respond to this specific feedback. I click it again and it'll close it. If I want to privately respond, I can then privately respond to that specific piece of feedback. And I have the opportunity to do so with each of the feedbacks that are there.
So Keisha is asking, why is requesting multiple feedbacks from customers that already left one compared to those that have not? I don't think it matters whether they've already left feedback or not. If it's been more than 30 days, they'll get another 30. If it's been more than the suppression period, they will get another feedback request, correct? Regardless of whether they previously left feedback?
Yep. We're looking at it in between, really related to each individual instance of them doing business with you. And that question gives me another piece that we recently released, but now you probably understand how it relates a little bit more. So we also added a job ID field. So this job ID field can be tied to an invoice number, or whatever you might use internally for something specific that'll help you then tie this specific piece of feedback to whatever internal measurements you have on what jobs are there. So you can easily just go in and type in that job ID number, and then it'll save it once you hit return, or go to click out of that specific box. So one idea to give you where we have some customers using this is they're passing along their job ID. They're using an API. They're passing their job ID into the instance, and then one of their questions is asking them to rate their service technician in the field. So then they have their technician field that gets its own NPS rating from 0 to 10. And then they're able to, when they pull that data back, know that Sarah was the field technician for that specific job and her rating was a 9. So it's actually being used to rate specific employees and their performance while out in the field by using multiple feedbacks, the job ID, and then the survey questions. So now you can see in a little bit more intricate way how we can tie all of these things together to allow a company to get even more granular with the type of feedback that they're asking for, all the way down to looking at how people are interacting with their service staff. All right, try to read a couple of questions here. Sammy asks, so the public responses will post to the site where the origin review was posted. So Sammy, the public response on here is to the customer's testimonial, their comment, right? So if you think back, there's a couple of layers to how our product works. And the first instance of feedback that we grab is private to the GetFiveStars system. So if we consider Gary's profile here, his feedback of fast and low-priced oil change, thanks. This is a comment specific to the GetFiveStars platform. This is not a review on Yelp or Facebook or Google. So when you are publicly responding to this, it's going to post to the testimonial widget that's out on the website. And if I take out and jump real quick to a use of that, let's see. Mike will like that I use his client, Barbara Oliver.
Brand new site, so her testimonial page doesn't have stars yet. We just switched to this last Friday, so we don't have stars yet on the testimonial page, but hopefully soon.
So here's Barbara's reviews and testimonial page, and she is using the testimonial widget on the page. So if you respond publicly, here's where you're going to see that pop into play. So it's an inline comment just below that specific instance, right? So Joe left her feedback saying that she was phenomenal, great knowledge and customer service, and then Barbara responded to it, thanking him for the kind words and everything else. So it posts here publicly in the testimonial widget, and then it also sends them an email, so that customer knows firsthand that you responded to them and you're grateful for what's there. So, and with Mike's coaching, Barbara does a fantastic job, right? Look at her, she's responding to all of these. So it's a great customer touch point, because not only are you doing it publicly and responding so future customers can see that and evaluate it, you're also giving them an email and saying, thanks for taking the time to leave that feedback, and I see it, and I'm specifically recognizing part of the story that you wrote to me and what you told me. So Barbara is just a fantastic example of customer service and how to respond and interact with your customers.
As a note on that, her 4x growth over the last 6 years has led to her finally adding a third person, and this third person is dedicated to this task.
Yeah.
That's how important she sees it, right?
Yep.
That's how important she sees reviews and feedback and responding to them.
Yep. And one interesting thing to note, right, and this is something when I do demos, and I use Barbara a lot, just because when you look at how she's done this across all of her profiles, right, and to me this is the perfect example of Mike has coached her into being slow and steady, having good expectations, and how you build it over time. So Mike has spent years with her, but this is what it results in, right? 5-star ratings at Facebook, 5-star ratings at Yelp. How many people have 5-star ratings at Yelp, right? And that's, 29 reviews on there, 119 reviews, 4.9 at Google, right? So you see across all these profiles, here's the not, everything else. She's carrying 5 stars all across it, right? So really, really great example in doing that. She has the benefit of Mike being in her ear, and on the business side, she's obviously seen the value in it, where it's one of her #1 strategies is to interact with customers, get customer feedback, respond to that feedback, and encourage online reviews. All right, Keenan's asking how you get full width of displays in the testimonials. Mike, do you want to touch on that from Barbara's side?
She's just using our transparent widget, which comes with CSS formatting, so I assume it has to do with the CSS on the site.
Yep, you can use a site to override that. We also have just a raw feed where you can completely style it as well, and that is with the transparent. And I don't know if that's specific with the other ones. That's something we should look at and possibly follow up on
Right. It
as
is
well.
a transparent widget, but I think you get the same thing with no widget and then just setting your own CSS. But somehow the CSS overrides the transparent one. So.
Yep. Or possibly some CSS hacks within there as well. So awesome. Great examples with that. Frank, or no, wait, who was it? Yeah, Frank also asked, how could we follow this example customer Gary, right, through his progression of services like loyalty, buying a new vehicle, using the service department, parts, accessories, things like that. Really good question. And other than the elements and the things that we're showing, I think we'll start to see some trends. And this is an area where we have interest in, Frank. Obviously, customer loyalty is big. At this time, I can say, we don't have anything hardened on our map that says, here's how we want to evolve into a customer loyalty platform. We do want to create some easy shortcuts so you'd be able to, Mike and I were just discussing this before the webinar started, right? Like maybe you want to filter and see who are customers that have left us feedback 4 times or 10 times or greater than X in the last year. Those are things that we see probably being very valuable for us to add in. So that would probably be the quickest and easiest win, and something I would say, in the next few months, you can probably see us adding into some of the sorting or filtering features on the site. And again, if you can think back to our statement of we want to really maintain our focus on being a great, we already play in a couple of areas, right? Customer feedback and online reviews. And to some extent, those are separate. And we have competitors that do one really well, customer feedback really well, and they don't do anything with online reviews. And then we have competitors that only focus on online reviews. And we've really tried to position ourselves to straddle the line and offer both at an easy to use, extremely valuable price, and everything else. So we're really focused there. So you might see us add a few things in for customer loyalty and what we can get a hold of there, but I definitely don't think we're going to turn into full-blown customer loyalty type app, a Belly or a Level Up or something of that nature. But definitely some things will be coming down the line there to understand. Greg asks, is it possible to report on the results of a survey questions, like how many people answered sub 8 on service speed? Not yet. We don't have granular reporting on that, Greg, where you can just isolate the survey questions reporting. But that is something we're already in discussions on for how we reveal that information. You would be able to go into Mike, would it be in the customer level or business level reporting?
Yeah, I don't know. That's so new.
Yeah. Let me just try one thing real quick, and this probably, yep, I'm in the one location, so it's not going to let me. I'll spend a quick second on this, Greg, to see if I can get you an answer, and if I can't, we'll just move on and try to readdress that. We'll capture that as a question to get back to.
One of the wondrous things about developing rapidly is we develop rapidly. One of the not so wondrous things about them is these features came out over the weekend and I haven't had a chance to play with them. Of course, I was on vacation this weekend, so that
yeah. So
and I know Aaron worked on Sunday, because I don't know if Aaron has told you my new title is CDO. That's the Chief Delegation Officer. So while I was vacationing, Aaron was debugging this.
So how the report ends up giving this to you is in the business level reporting. So it's going to give you, here's again where you need to put in that keyword. So the question 1 is speed, and then it's going to tell you what the answer or the rating was for question 1 with it. So when you have that, what you'd be able to do is go back through it and then sort those out.
Right, so you could sort on speed and sort on score, and you'd be able to answer his question, right?
I think so. And then the other thing, let me check and see if it surfaces in the customer.
I don't suppose asking back to Greg to test it, let us know is appropriate, huh?
I think we can request it. I don't know if it's appropriate.
Well, Greg, let us know. It seems flippant. It's just the fact that we just rolled this out in the last couple of days, and we apologize for not being totally familiar with all the ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, so Greg, I think specifically to what you're asking to do, you'd be able to do it this way, right? So I'm in a specific location and I'm in the customer level report. And when I pull that down, it's going to show me who voted on these things, right? So I could sort by these in, a descending value, and then I'd be able to see which customers rated me 7 or below, right? I'd be able to copy and paste, take those customers out of there, build a specific list on them, and, their comments, their overall ratings, but all based upon their speed rating. So you can use the customer level reporting to be able to do that. So there, we did arrive at an answer for that. It took us a little bit, but thanks, Greg. All right, so to jump back out of that and transition into a couple more things that we wanted to touch base on today, and thank you guys for your questions and a couple of things that point out for us to dig into and take a look at a little bit further. There's a blog post I wrote in the last couple of weeks that really highlighted the 3 different ways to request customer feedback by email and reviews by email. And this is something that I think, one way or another, a lot of people just really aren't familiar with or don't understand about the platform. They either haven't looked into it or don't realize that these abilities are there. And this is a main entry point. So we really wanted people to understand what those are, right? And so what we're talking about today is, the initial email that goes out to a customer once you have added them to the platform with it. And there's 3 different variations to what this is, and each has its own set of pros and cons, what it's designed to do and what it's best for. And then obviously in optimizing for what it's best for, there's a few areas where it can then lack for you. So the first one is what we call the default or the classic version of what's there, right? This is already enabled and set in the system, and we have initial commentary on what's there and for you to work with. And this is really just designed around for the user to take our normal flow through the GetFiveStars platform series of templates and touch points. And all starts with a feedback request email that thanks them for doing business with you and asks them to give feedback. And the point of it is to get them to click the Give Feedback button, and then they're taken to the Net Promoter Score question, any survey questions that you might be utilizing, and the feedback box with what's there. And then from there, we're going to segment them based on happy or unhappy customers and either ask them for online reviews if they're a happy customer, or ask them for more information and give an initial apology if they rate us less than what our setting is for being a happy customer. And segment them off that way. So, with the classic or the default version, right, this gives you the full use. The pros here, you have your full use of all the GetFiveStars features. You get survey questions. You're capturing Net Promoter Score. As I mentioned earlier, you're enabling yourself with the feedback dialogue between ratings and the text feedback they give you. You will see anywhere from 10 to 15, as high as 20 times more internal feedback over reviews. That's the nature of the beast, right? At the end of the day, there's only a small population that are willing to write reviews or have accounts on the review sites you want. It's a much more limited subset and performance that you'll get out of that, but a strong percentage of your customers will give you feedback in itself that is privy to you, that you can learn from and evaluate and make adjustments with and communicate with them. That feedback is fabulous because it helps fuel your testimonial widget. We had a great write-up this past week in Search Engine Land with one of our larger customers and what they're able to see for benefits by using the testimonial widget across thousands of agent landing pages. So very successful for them, and it's very successful for a one-page or a one-location business as well. And then you can learn from the negative feedback as well. So for me, this is probably the route that I tell 90% of people to go, because it gets you all of the information, all of the features, data points, customer feedback, everything else that's there. Now the one, what somebody might call a con with this, or its challenge, is as Mike alluded to earlier, you're asking the customer to do a number of things before you're asking for an online review. So you're asking them for a rating, you're asking them to give you survey questions, you're asking them for feedback, and then lastly, you're saying, will you write an online review with it? Mike, do you have anything to add on this specific one?
No, I am answering questions in the background, sorry.
Well, good. I'll let you get after those. The next one to touch on is ratings only. So we have a setting on the feedback landing page that allows you to select ratings only. And as you can see from the example email on the right, what this does is kind of boil up the feedback process one step higher. So instead of clicking on give feedback and then taking to the rating page, we present the 0 to 10 Net Promoter Score rating right in the email itself, right? So you're still able to capture Net Promoter Score, and you're doing it right from the email right up front. You're able to segment the happy and unhappy customers, so you're asking those that have rated you, depending upon what you've set your threshold at, an 8 or a 9 or a 10, to then give you online reviews, and you're able to follow up with your negative customers. And it takes a click away, right? It's a faster route to the review sites, and you're also not asking for feedback in the same way you are. So when you click this and you get the review site, say clicked it at 10, and then please review us on Facebook, Yelp, and Google here. Then below those see review sites is going to be a button that says give us direct feedback, right? Write a review directly to us. So the customer still can give you feedback that you could use in your testimonial widget. They are, though, very less likely. We see far less feedback in this method, but we do have customers that see more reviews happen in this method because they're not typing anything at any point in time, and it's getting them to the review sites faster. Now, some of the cons with the rating only, as you can imagine, you lose a lot of that feedback, as I touched on. You're unable to use survey questions in any format with this because it's kind of skipping that landing page in that step, and it's not giving you as much to fuel your testimonials for your widget with it. So again, there are the trade-offs. And then Mike, I don't know if you're typing and answering questions still, but do you have anything to add on the rating?
Paul wanted to know, and he asked this question in the blog post, whether or not we would be able to offer a like this option, but with feedback directly in the email. In other words, enhanced ratings only, or ratings plus feedback directly in the email, so that the user understands that this is the sum total of their obligation, as opposed to a feedback button, which, as Paul pointed out in his comments, that might imply that it's a lot of questions.
Yeah, and Paul, the easiest way to phrase this up is there's some technology challenges to doing that. I try to explain really quickly and concise. The 0 through 10s are each individual links. So we're able to capture that click that happens in this because an email can't have a multi-stage process where you select something and then it holds that information, and then you fill out a form and it holds that information, and then you hit the command to send it. So that format, where if you did that, has some technology challenges that email is just not built for, nor may it ever be built for that. So that's why, even within a click in either of these scenarios, you're being taken from an email environment over into a web environment where you can store that information and build them into multiple steps. So what you're asking for specifically just isn't technically possible to be able to build that in email. So that's where this version comes into play, where we gather their vote and we're able to pass along how the user clicked, because it's not storing any information. It's just passing along the action that user has taken and clicked on. All right, and the last one, and I'm hoping Mike has a little more to offer on this one, because this one is his baby, right? So this is what we have called customer choice. And as you can see from the example on the right side, you basically go into the default or the classic version, and you use the editor, so you're introducing both the ask for online reviews and the give feedback button, so you can capture, the way to look at this is your happy customers are going to click in one click to write you a review if they have an account on that site and they want to write you an online review. And then if someone is unhappy or has feedback to share that they're more likely to share with you or express their frustrations with, they'll use the give feedback button. And if you can look at even our example text here, we're stating that if you're happy with your recent service, we'd love if you left an online review. And then below that, if we didn't meet your expectations in any way, like leave us your feedback so we can address it with you and improve. And I know, Mike, that's one of your keys to this is how well you explain and set up these paths for the user.
Right. So just a note that the reviews option is a variable that can be included in any of the emails, the first feedback, the thank you, or in the negative one. And as another note, TripAdvisor, by terms of service, requires that you not do positive-only reviews at TripAdvisor. So one way around that would be to put the review links in the negative follow-up email at the bottom of it, for example. So it's like the third or fourth interaction they're having, and they're unlikely to leave you a review. But in this case, Barbara's Net Promoter Score has consistently run well above 90, and she very rarely gets anything but a 5-star review. And we wanted to be we wanted to focus more on reviews without losing the choice of having feedback at the site. And what we find is because she's, one, does such a great job, and two, she's in an industry that people want to brag about, which is jewelry. People love bragging about their new jewelry. She gets a huge amount of people that click on both. Right? They give the feedback and then they go to the review site, or they go to the review site and then they go back and give feedback. So surprisingly, in her situation, she gets both, just a large number of testimonials and a large number of reviews. She is unique, though, and I would hesitate to hold her up as an example that everybody can achieve, because most customers don't have 93, 94 NPS scores, which the way the score is calculated, it's very difficult to get a 93 or 94. She also publishes all of her feedback. She doesn't leave any out. She publishes all the negatives because, again, she doesn't get it so very often. So anyways, in her case, it works very well, maximizes both reviews and feedback, but as Paul pointed out in the blog post comment, it is not true NPS. So if you're really looking for an NPS score, that sort of dilutes that process a little bit.
Yeah, just as we point out here, right? The pros, this gives you the fastest route to online reviews, right? One click and they're on that review site because the links are right there in the email. But the cons are a number of other things, from Net Promoter Score, getting customer feedback private to you so you can figure out if it's good or bad and what to do with it. And you really, a number of things that we outline where it's helping you control this process. You lose some of that control. You're really putting that control in your customer's hands. But if you're confident, if you already have a great track record, or you've already been taking NPS and you have a very high score, and the customer service levels you provide, that a majority to close to all the time, as much as possible, you're providing a great experience, and your customers are going to echo that. If you have doubts on that, you don't have a good NPS score, whatever else, even though you're really excited about reviews, you could be putting reviewers closer to publicly displaying that they're not happy with their process with you. So you definitely want to think through this. You definitely want to explain it and lay it out well, and make sure what's there. To me, it's kind of one of those, right? When you're given a weapon, you have to be responsible with it. This could be looked at as a really good weapon in obtaining reviews, but if you don't use it responsibly or you're not properly set up for it, you might inflict some harm with it. All right, and as an overall, the thing that I feel like this really points out, that I hope all of you understand, is as with a number of things in our platform, there's a number of different ways to use them. Our help guide explains a lot of these. Our blog explains a lot of these monthly webinars. Our platform, every time we build these features, we're trying to think as many ways as people might utilize it, from a very simplistic way to a very sophisticated way.
Or we may not even think of all the ways, but we want to give you enough choice that you can think of the ways.
Yep, absolutely.
So if you come up with creative uses, let us know.
Yep, absolutely. Very, very good point. So just know that when we create these things, we are trying to be as open-minded as possible to all the different things. So we do have some times, or a few more questions here, and time to answer some Q&A at the end with our last 5 minutes. Lindsay asks, can I send different email styles to individual customers, or does it change the style for all customers? So Yes, currently you would have to go and you could change the style and then send it to a specific customer, and then you'd have to go in and change the style back and send it to another customer. So,
or if you do it manually, you could go in and change it on the fly when you do the manual send.
yep,
and
you
not
could do
save
that.
it to the template, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah. So we don't have anything specifically right now. We do have plans in the works with no timetable that some features that would allow for some segmentation and be able to do things like that, right? So you might have you might utilize and send a list specifically to somewhere where it's ask for online reviews only is that type of list compared to get customer feedback. So that is one thing we've talked about, Lindsay, and it's in the planning stages, but not a hardened date on a delivery yet. But we hear you. We're thinking the same way. James asks if we can completely design our own emails and then upload. No. The templates that are there allow for the customizations of logos and a few other elements, text copy, and then there's the tags feature, so you can bring in things like the feedback button or the online reviews and everything else. But it isn't a full-blown WYSIWYG or coding email like you would see inside of an email marketing platform like MailChimp or Constant Contact. Or something of that like. So you do have to use our provided templates, and you can customize those. All right, anybody else with any other additional questions that we can answer before we wrap up today? See if anybody's pecking away at them right now. As always, stay tuned to our blog. There's a number of things that we just continue to announce and roll out. Just a reminder, with the repeat feedback, that will be rolled out platform-wide, by the end of the week. It's already there for, API and list upload, but the simple add a customer isn't working just yet. It would tell you that that customer already exists in the platform, but in the next day or two, that will now be resolved. Shar asked, do you guys have a webinar you can send me a link to regarding API integration? Shar, we don't have an API integration one specifically, but we do have in our user guide, so at userguide.getfivestars.com. It's also linked in the bottom of our website. It's a full-blown user guide, and in the lower right corner is an area for API documentation. So those documents and formatting will kind of run you through all of the different commands, capabilities, and lists. And one thing, right, a lot of people, if you don't have a lot of API knowledge, here's the best way to look at it. Like, our API allows us to talk to other platforms to both give and receive information. So as long as that platform is also API enabled, which that's 98% of the web nowadays, it's going to work, right? So API integrations work with known commodities like Salesforce or other specific CRMs. We just did an integration with Olo. We used a little different format called webhooks, and it's online ordering. So a lot of times, a lot of people ask questions like, can it do this or that? Well, an API can really do anything as long as both platforms allow for that communication. And in today's day and age, the API is a very common connector with it. So, Shar, check out the user guide for that. Thanks, Paul. Glad you liked the webinar, and also passes along. He's been using the customer name in the subject line for personalization, and that's been helping. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, and I use the customer name in the pre-header, the first line, and then include a call to action in the first line, so that it doesn't take up. The subject line is so constrained by character count that I find an alternative is to use the customer name plus a call to action in the pre-header. So you have a short subject line, customer name, call to action, the pre-header, then you get sort of the benefits of both. At least that's a theory I'm working on. I don't know if that's the case. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining Mike and I, mostly for putting up with me. Mike was fabulous on background vocals today, and I appreciate him joining to help out. And as usual, we will post in the next day or two the video of this webinar, the slides, and just a brief recap with it. That'll hit our blog, so you have that information if you want to review it and take a look at it.
Quick question, Aaron, before you hang up. Keith, at the very beginning, asked a question. He wants a copy of the URL of the report where you noted the frequency with which businesses ask their customers for feedback. So
okay, yeah. I will
And then
tweet that out from the GetFiveStars account. It's a marketing profs article. I think I tweeted out from my own address prior to the webinar today, but it's a marketing profs article, and I will tweet that out from the GetFiveStars account when we jump off here. So be on the lookout for that, and then you can consume that article. Some really good facts and data in there. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. And we will see you in the September webinar, or talk to you in the live chat on the site, or hear from you in the comments of the blog post. We really appreciate all of you guys as customers. And if you're someone lurking today trying to learn more, hopefully you got a much better idea on all the great things we can do for you with customer feedback and online reviews. And we hope you'll join the family soon. So thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.